Hey everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome. Can't wait to chat with you all and, of course, go through our top trying to conceive mistakes even when trying for a year together. Very excited for this. We've been looking forward to it. The whole team's here, ready to support you. If you want to drop in a little bit about where you're tuning in from in the message, that would be awesome. We love to see where people are at. And it's super fun whenever we get people who are local or local-ish. We're all on the East Coast, Jersey, PA, Vermont, but we see people everywhere, and South Dakota, North Carolina, everywhere worldwide. So we love seeing wherever everyone's coming in from. Super cool. Jersey, we got New Jerseyer. Carrie's our Jersey girl. Awesome. Well, I'm going to jump right at Alberta. Awesome. Amazing. I'm going to jump right in and get going because I know that we have a lot to get to. We are recording this. You'll get the recording. Feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go. We are going to keep you on mute, just for, making sure that everyone's can hear us well. If you have any issues as well, put them in there, and Kaylee and Carrie will make sure that you are getting taken care of. All right. So top 5 mistakes we see from working with hundreds of clients on their trying to conceive journey. Yes, even when trying for a year. And if I could add a subtitle, it would say that are not your fault, but is a major reason why a standard approach to fertility fails a lot of us. We are the dream team. I call us. This is my dream team. Everyone here, myself, Carrie, Kaylee. You can read more about us on our website. I'm not going to go in and, share a little bit about everyone. It's all on the website, yourfertilityyourfuture.com. So feel free to go over there and look at our credentialing, our experience, who we help, and why we do what we do. So let's just dive in. Mistake number 1. All right, we're wasting no time. This is by far the number 1 area that we see that is the most common trying to conceive mistake. All right. It is the number 1 area because of a few reasons. 1, it is not touched by a 10-foot pole by a standard approach to fertility. Not even mentioned, not discussed, not understood. 2, this has personally been a part of all 3 of our journeys. All right. We've had chemical pregnancy, multi-year infertility with recurrent loss, subfertility that, if not addressed, would have likely turned into a pretty big infertility situation. Every single one of us on this team who are professionals in this field also have struggled with this area. And we see this with about, I would say, 90% of people that we work with. And the third is this is what keeps women stuck when they're doing all the things. When you are doing all the healthy things, you're doing all the supplements, you're doing everything that everyone has told you, you're getting burned out and starting to think that IVF is your only solution. So those are really some major reasons why we have to talk about depletion first. All right. So what is depletion? This can come from many areas. This isn't just food, but not eating enough sure is the number 1 reason that we see depletion in the women that we work with. We help women to eat 2,200 to 2,500 calories, if not more. Yes, even with PCOS. Yes, to lose or gain weight, to have more energy, regain healthy cycles, and get and stay pregnant. All right. You have to be eating enough to get and stay pregnant. Number 1. And I know that many of you here are like, oh yeah, I love eating. I eat a lot. And that's not me. Maybe not. But again, I think most of the women, most times when we are working with women, we find that, and men, women, both partners on the journey, but really we're talking about the energy that it takes for a woman to cycle, to ovulate, to grow the uterine lining, to do this over and over again every cycle. It is usually the women who are not eating enough. It's also the women who, if you're around 20s, 30s, I grew up in the 90s. Diet culture is pretty insane, right? Just growing up and kind of learning, whether on purpose or just through media, what a woman should eat and look like and all these things, right? It's pretty pervasive. Number 2, life is depleting. Again, I don't know. Very specific journeys are, of course, what we dive into when we work with people, but think about it. Right? We're a young kid. Maybe you're put on antibiotics a couple of times for ear infections. Maybe again, dieting starts super young in women, oftentimes in their high school years. College stress, nutrition probably the worst that it's going to be in your entire life during college. On top of that, all the stress of college itself, landing that dream job, straight to boss babe mode for years. All right. This paired with perfectionism, martyrism, doing all the things for everybody else, not really filling up our cup. Yeah. Talk about depletion. All right. Birth control. Oh my gosh. Didn't even talk about birth control. Birth control depleting specific nutrients in our gut, in our stress resiliency, our ability to handle stress resiliency, depletion. All right. Not eating enough is number one. Not absorbing enough is number two. You very well could come in and prove us wrong and really show us that, you know what, I actually am eating enough, not through just my own your own subjective view, but when we really get that into our fertility repletion method and are able to see that on paper and confirm. But are you absorbing it? Are you absorbing enough? It's not you are what you eat, it's you are what you absorb. All right. Even if you're eating all the healthy foods, even if you're eating all organic, even if you are really committing to whatever version of healthy that you are finding is good for you, are you absorbing it? This is big. This is why gut is an essential part of how we help to support women get and stay pregnant. Kaylee, I'm going to pull you in here. Kaylee is our gut expert. What do you find when working with our clientele? What do you find on gut testing or other markers showing us about this foundational depletion?
Yeah. When we see that classic martyrdom, perfectionist, high stress load for years and years, maybe it's decades, we see some classic signs and symptoms of this on gut testing. So one thing we always see is a suppressed gut-based immune system. So this means your body is not appropriately handling challenges to the outside environment. That is classic with high stress patterns. We also see why you're not absorbing enough. So we see oftentimes low stomach acid. We might see an infection like H. pylori, an imbalance in that bacteria that's preventing that stomach acid from being produced. That is aggravated by a high stress load. We might see suboptimal gallbladder status, fat malabsorption. We might see you not producing and releasing enough pancreatic enzymes, all related back to that stress piece of the puzzle. So to get you absorbing enough to fix some of these pieces we see on gut testing, we need to be handling the adrenals. We need to be balancing that stress. And then we see some other imbalances on there too. We can oftentimes see that leaky gut that you might have heard about, that intestinal permeability. That is also perpetuated by a high stress load and can be caused by a high stress load in many cases. So there's a lot of common patterns we see and we look for and we suspect when we hear someone come in and they talk about all the stress they've been under and everything they've gone through and all the modern day pressures that they have. So if you have signs of bloating, reflux when you're eating, if you feel really, really full, that you feel like you can't eat a lot, these are all signs that looking at your gut might be a great place to zero in on in your fertility journey.
And we see these even without symptoms. All right. So this is why it's very important. Symptoms are so important. We are going to help you understand what your symptoms mean, but also lack of symptoms doesn't necessarily mean lack of an issue. Low stomach acid is something that we saw in probably, I don't know the exact percentage, guys, but Carrie, would you say like 80% of our July cohort members?
Yeah, if not more.
Not more. Low stomach acid. And they could have been asymptomatic, symptomatic, all across the board here. But this is where looking at the whole story is so important. It's not just symptoms. It's, again, your life story, your story, clarifying what that means for you. What about in other situations? We're talking about not absorbing enough, not eating enough. This seems like a pretty basic thing. All right. So, but Carrie, have you seen this in other examples of larger trying to conceive fertility problems? And if so, kind of clue us in on those.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, like with miscarriage, for example, vitamin D is associated with increased miscarriage risk, vitamin B6, B12. B12 alone can cause a miscarriage, deficiency in B12, that is. So, it's not to scare you, it's just to say, making sure that you're refueling and putting back into your body all the things that like modern day stressors take out from our lives. There are certain nutritional deficiencies that can affect the embryo as it's coming down the tube. So like before it even implants, that can basically, it's the trophoblast cells. so that if they go a little haywire, you can eventually have issues with your placenta later on down the line, or even your cervix, for example, especially with high stress clients, thinking about cervical health when they're pregnant. Those stress hormones and the nutrients that get depleted from stress play a very, very critical role in making sure that cervix stays closed until a birth is ready to go and ready to start in the end of the third trimester, not too early.
So not to interrupt you, Carrie, but you're saying that addressing depletions now to get pregnant and stay pregnant actually have beneficial outcomes on birth. And I think preeclampsia is another big one as well, right?
Yeah. Huge. Absolutely huge.
I love that. So powerful. So addressing this now, again, not only to get pregnant, we're your fertility, your future, right? Like this isn't just getting pregnant. Yes, of course, that's everyone's goal that we work with, but this is really setting you up for reaping the rewards of, improving your birth outcomes, your health of your future babies. Everything. So sorry, I'm getting a little passionate there, Carrie. You go ahead and keep going.
Oh yeah, and then I was just gonna top it off too. Something to put it into perspective of like your journey right now. Making sure that thyroid, right, has enough nutrients, to make sure that you're getting good quality cervical lining, endometrial lining, right? Making sure you have a nice thick lining for baby to implant into. And also just the health of your eggs, making sure that they're nice and healthy and they're getting all the nutrients that they need to grow and get nice, big and juicy and ovulate a nice, healthy egg.
You can't bake a cake without the ingredients, right?
Yeah.
It's honestly, that's what I think of every time. It's like, we want this beautiful cake, but you don't have the right ingredients. Well, yeah, you're not going to get it. It's not going to happen. So, this reminds me of one of our clients from our January cohort, I believe, was it IPAC, who had done, one round of IVF prior. Was it one? Really poor, follicle maturation, poor retrieval rates, and she knew she wanted something different. Honestly, just by committing, and of course we do many things, but this was one of the huge things that got her first positive pregnancy test. And so just very cool. We see this over and over again. And that's why this is just a part of the whole thing, the tag axis: thyroid, adrenal, gut. This is something that if you haven't heard us talk about, you likely will, because this isn't just about one thing. If you're coming here looking for one solution to get and stay pregnant, we're probably not the right place for you. That's not how we work. It's a system. Your body does not work in isolation. Your thyroid, adrenal, and gut all are impacting reproduction. And so this is an essential part of really making sure that we're feeling good about that systems-based approach. And we often see this in Dutch testing. When we do Dutch testing, in fact, I'm going to pull it up here, skip ahead real quick from another really cool repletion success. But when we're talking about depletion, this is a picture of one piece of a Dutch cycle mapping test. You can see the client's result is the purple and pink. The purple is estrogen. The pink is progesterone. And while these are fine, they kind of fit into that gray dotted range reference. These could be fine. These would be absolutely normal on standard testing. When we see this and pair it with a history of fertility struggles, this is not fine. This is not normal. This is definitely not optimal. We see that this is, in fact, a marker of depletion. This, I would say, would be right on the border, of saying like, hey, this is good, but it's not good enough. And I'll tell you what, many Dutches we see are a flat line of these hormones, even lower than this peak. I kind of use this graph as kind of like the cutoff of, okay, you're ovulating, great, but we're not getting that whole system really going like we need to for success. And this really shows in a different part of the Dutch. Another classic example, the most common one we see of depletion. We see, if you're looking at these gas gauges, these gauges like a gas tank in your car, right? Left being low and right being high. You can see this woman is depleted in all sex hormones, not all, many sex hormones, because she was not eating enough. She was not fueling enough, absorbing it. And she's a runner. it was very hard to balance those kind of goals and desires with trying to conceive. This is a client from, oh my goodness, many, many years ago. And yeah, she now has 3 babies, which is wild. But this is why tests don't guess, right? I do want to, I don't know if we're going to have time to listen to all of our awesome videos that we have on our ladies. Let me go back one.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica and I was in Olivia's April cohort. To tell you a little bit about my story, I've had irregular cycles all my life and thought nothing of it. When I got married, I went on the birth control pill for a few years and then stopped when we decided to try. And then after that, my body just stopped cycling altogether. I was told my hormone levels were quote unquote normal and was diagnosed with PCOS after an ultrasound and then was recommended an ovulation inducing drug. But I felt like if I wasn't cycling, how could my hormones be fine? So I found a functional practitioner and worked on some vitamin deficiencies and eating healthier. But I wasn't seeing the changes that I wanted, and I ended up having a chemical pregnancy in February of this year. And from there, I really wanted to get the ball rolling and work on some things, and discovered Olivia on Instagram and decided to reach out to her. And she told me that they had a cohort coming up and thought I would be a great candidate for that, and I decided to spend money on myself to find a root cause. I learned so much from the weekly modules. Some of it I had heard before but had not been explained to me as plainly, like what the foundations are, how important they are, and how so many systems are connected. Having the community and the weekly calls was so helpful to see each other and people going through similar things and to see what questions they were asking that I could learn from. Then once we got to the one-on-one portion, I got a chance to hear direct feedback on my story, what I'd been doing well to that point, what I needed to work on, and then I really took that and just ran with that. And then after that, saw some great changes. And shortly after that, figured out that I had ovulated through my fam charting. So that was really exciting. I've been trying to track that kind of thing for the last 9 months of my 2-year journey and had not seen any sort of ovulation or peak on my tracking. And since then have just felt so supported through the 2-week wait. Olivia, Carrie, and Kaylee, they really just care about your results. I could feel they were happy for me and proud of my progress and wanted me to keep sending updates on my charts and everything just to see how things were progressing. Before this cohort, I had been put on the right path in some ways, but in some ways had not. There's a lot of information out there, and to be able to do this cohort, to get a bio-individualized plan, to know that I'm implementing things that are right for me and my body and what my body is saying, I just feel is really powerful. And the fact that you get access to a great community, access to professionals, and sharing of some really important information in a way that I can understand it. Now I've successfully tracked ovulation and I'm waiting to take a pregnancy test. It may be my month, it may be not. But if it's not, I know I'm doing the right things for my body to set me up for the next cycle.
So Jessica was a great case. She always had irregular cycles, wasn't really diagnosed with PCOS though. She went on birth control. And when she came off, she just didn't, I think she had 1 cycle, but it was very wonky. And then she just stopped cycling. So that was basically a history that she came to us with. She had gotten diagnosed with PCOS, was working with her OB, working with a midwife. The midwife was and we'll talk about this later, in my opinion, not doing progesterone at the right time, but, best intention of just trying to use cyclical progesterone therapy kind of to jumpstart her whole cycle and get her cycles to come back online. So we worked with, honestly, I wanted to focus completely on repletion for her, eating enough, chewing her food, digesting her food with a supplement to just help that absorption. And she went from not cycling at the start of our cohort to, as you can see in that chart, ovulating on her own. There was no, forced medication or trigger shot or anything. That was completely natural. And the cool part about it is, we had been talking about the right time to do cyclical progesterone therapy for her. Usually it's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off until your cycles do come back online. Around here, we like to adjust that timeline based on the client's specific needs. And so that's something that she and I were really, really talking about. And she decided to wait a little bit longer. And I told her, trust your body's intuition. Like when you feel it's the right time, do it. And so she waited to do progesterone this cycle, but she was going to do it earlier and she would have blocked that ovulation completely. And we wouldn't have known that her cycles are coming back online. So really, really cool. And that's a great, excellent chart. We are very, very excited about how that looks. And we're going to continue to monitor this cycle and see where it takes us. But pretty promising.
Very. And learning how to track your cycles, understand your cycles, really understand your whole cycle outside of just ovulation is just another reason why Jessica's story is so powerful, because it's more than just some little dots on paper. She really tuned into her body, understood what it needed, and followed her own intuition, which is very, very powerful. So then that kind of does bring us in. So we talked about Dutch. Depletion takeaways, real quick. Don't assume that you're past this foundation, all right? This is probably the number one thing that we see keep people stuck. Listen, we're professionals in this field, and this kept us stuck for a good while, all right? So don't assume that all these things are fine. No amount of supplements will solve not addressing these, secondly. And this is not the same as eating healthy. In fact, that's something that will keep you stuck, all right? So super important to takeaways there. Now, talking about tracking cycles, talking about Jessica and seeing hers there and understanding how to track cycles. This is a second issue that we see because, again, majority, again, I'm 90% of cohort members think they are tracking their cycles, are not doing it right, are not doing it in a way that honors them, actually is sustainable for long-term and keeping stress levels at bay, and 3, actually seeing and finding what they want from their cycles. Many cycle tracking, methods or ideas that people have about it involve just downloading a free app on your phone and letting it track your cycle. That is not cycle tracking. That is not fertility awareness method, which is what we teach. It is not going to tell you really anything about what your body is actually doing, can be very inaccurate, and is all about ovulation. When ovulation, yes, of course, we have to ovulate to get pregnant. But the thing about tracking your cycles is you're looking at the entire cycle, all right? You're looking at, just like Jessica's chart there that we saw, and we'll pull another one up in a moment here. You're looking at the entire first part of your cycle, the follicular phase and the luteal phase. You're tracking cervical mucus. You're tracking cervix position. If it sounds like a lot, it's not a lot. It takes maybe minutes out of your day to do this, but finding the right method for you is very, very important, which is what we help people work through in our cohorts, because it's very important to find one that honors you, right? And you feel good about. So the partial tracking, again, just tracking ovulation, or maybe you're taking BBTs, maybe you're taking an oral temperature, but then you stop once you see that you're ovulated. You're missing an entire piece of the puzzle. You're missing an entire piece of the equation. Another issue we see is that it's dismissed by practitioners. All right. So this is a big one that I'll address in a moment, but I know that we had an example. Kaylee, was it a woman from our last cohort that you had an example about how when she tracked her cycles, she actually learned things were different than what she thought?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a woman from our last cycle, so our last cohort in April. And so this was a really cool example. She was using Natural Cycles, which we really love, as an app to track this. She's using her temperature in it as well. But still, when doing everything correctly, when you're doing fam tracking, they're not perfect. She was able to identify that she is actually ovulating earlier than the app was telling her. So if she was waiting those additional days to start trying to conceive, to hit that fertile window correctly, she could have missed it for that cycle. And so she knew, based on learning all about how her hormones naturally fluctuate through her cycle, learning how to use fam appropriately, she was able to still time TTC and intercourse correctly, and so she hits that window. And so that was really powerful for her, and we were able to actually confirm that she was correct because based on her Dutch cycle mapping results. So it was super, super cool for her, and she was like, oh, awesome, like I knew this, and we saw it confirmed in labs for her. And so, using the technology is really helpful, but we have to know how to use it correctly, and we have to just always remember that it is fallible. We have to be always coming back to ourselves and learning how to do this to get the best tracking.
And Carrie, you are our big cervical mucus whiz on tracking CM, implementing this in cycles, having us actually pull that entire piece together, because without that, it's really a partial picture. So what are the biggest things that you see people do when tracking their cycles, but really kind of missing the mark on seeing the full picture?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest mistake I think that people make is not tracking CM, period. I mean, I can't tell you how many charts that we get, and clients are just asking for feedback, and that's missing. So that's, a huge piece of the puzzle for us to tell us when you are going to be ovulating, when you are in your fertile window. The BBT part, that's helpful to know that you did ovulate. So if I only know the back half, that's not really that helpful in trying to get someone to pinpoint their fertile window. So I would say not tracking cervical mucus, not getting familiar with it might take a couple cycles to get familiar with your pattern. That's okay. All is not lost in those cycles. It's still extremely important. The second thing that I see people do is using these at-home hormone tests, like Anito and Mira, and I think Prove has one, and I don't know what else is out there now. I've used Anito. I've used it side by side with a Dutch myself. It is inaccurate. Um, I think that it is still a helpful tool if you use it in a very specific way. Do not use it to try and get like a Dutch cycle mapping at home. It's not going to be accurate. Use it to see, okay, my estrogen is rising. Maybe I'm about to ovulate. All right, my progesterone is rising. Maybe I did ovulate. And then put the test down. Do not test all cycle long. It will make you crazy. It will put you into, I can't tell you how many clients we've had that have said, it stresses me out so much. And then you're in like fight or flight. That's how you're starting your day. Not great, for a bunch of different reasons, as you know. So yeah, those are my two big mistakes. So put the femtech devices down and check your cervical mucus. It can tell us so much more, so much more.
And it's free. We help people find the right fan method for them because it's dependent on waking times, budget, how long you've been on the journey. But femtech is usually never it. And so I want to talk to this last point a little bit more. Dismiss from your provider. So this is a complaint that a lot of women we hear from a lot of women we work with. It's like, well, I take my charts in and they just say they don't mean anything. And I want to kind of reframe this a little bit because basically what this tells us is that it's dismissed because a practitioner doesn't know what they don't know. Okay. It's like if I went and tried to look at a financial analysis report from Wall Street and you're asking me what savings account or, bonds to buy, I don't freaking know. And if I am humble, which I believe I am, I would look at it and say, you know what? This is not my forte. I don't know how to interpret this. Please go to someone who can, because I know there's a lot of really cool, important information here. But to me, that looks like hieroglyphics. Or what doctors do is they say, you take them a fam chart, it looks like hieroglyphics to them, and they're going to say, oh, this doesn't mean anything. It's useless. We don't need that. That's not being humble. That is not being professional, to be honest, and not referring out to people who actually can get you the information that you need, that can make or break your experience, feeling in control, empowered, and ultimately feeling like you're getting closer to your BFP. So,
hey, Olivia, can I jump in with an example?
Yeah.
So Jessica, that girl we just chatted about, she was showing her chart to her midwife, like, wow, I finally ovulated. And her midwife was like, oh, it's interesting. She was using a femtech device as well. I just didn't show that chart to you guys. She's using a Nido. She had a second estrogen rise after her ovulation, and she felt so dismissed that her midwife was saying like, oh, if we do cyclical progesterone continuously over the next couple of cycles, maybe we can get rid of that second estrogen rise. We actually want that second estrogen rise. That's normal. That's part of the process. That is a normal thing that happens in the luteal phase. So that was a good thing. And so it just goes to show you what I told Jessica is like, she knows how to get the babies here safely. We know how to make the babies. So like, let's just stay in our respective lanes.
Yes. Who would have thought, right? Like if you are trained and an expert in one area that you do that well, and then you kind of, let other people do what they do well. Who would have thought? Crazy. And so, yeah, it's just, it is that team. We always recommend having a team. We are a part of that team, but you also don't want to rely on a standard approach to be that team and that sole team, because it's not going to get you what you want. So Natural Cycles is the app that we recommend. As Kaylee said, we do have 20% off for this for our cohort members. We help you find your BBT method that works for you, feels good for you. And we'll talk all about this in the offer and how to access that at the end, but really takeaways here. So number one is finding the method that works for you, won't cause you stress, and you'll be consistent with. Best time to start is today. You need to start as soon as possible to start collecting data. Every cycle, you will learn more, you will understand more, and it'll help us to help you. Patterns are more important than single data points. So this is not about stressing about one single data point. You want to look at the patterns, the forest through the trees. And ultimately, we use this to track progress. All right. How it feels so amazing to be able to look at your charts, understand what you're looking at, and see, oh my gosh, 2 months ago, my cycle looked like this, and now it looks like this. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Progress tracking that is in putting the power in your hands, not just saying, well, I don't know what else to do. And, every single month I take a pregnancy test and it's negative. No more taking pregnancy tests either. Okay. Like that should also be a mistake on its own. Is taking pregnancy tests every month, because with FAM, you don't need to do that. All right. Next one is hormones, hormone IQ, really having an understanding of your hormones, right? This does limit your ability to advocate for yourself. If you don't understand cycles, if you don't understand hormones, if you don't understand what your body needs to make this all happen, you're not going to get that at a standard approach. You're going to, again, just not be heard, not be able to ask questions, not be able to get better answers. Another example of this that we see all the time is improper progesterone use. Carrie mentioned one about Jessica and the midwife. Again, maybe well-meaning. I can't tell you how many times, and you just had another one this week, I think, Carrie, about progesterone from a practitioner. Tell me about that one.
Well, we have a lot of these, but a lot of times these practitioners are asking to either start, like, you have low progesterone, so we're going to have you take progesterone from like cycle right after your period for your whole cycle. I can't tell you how many times we've heard that, especially this year. So it's seemingly getting more popular with OBs or PCPs. But this week, I had a client was telling her that she would be a good candidate for progesterone based on her Dutch. And she said, yeah, well, it's funny that you said that. I just asked my OB about that last week, and she said she'll only give me progesterone if I do Clomid. And for us, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. They don't. If you do Clomid, you should be on progesterone, but you don't need to be on Clomid to do progesterone. So just crazy advice out there.
We've had, women take it for a year, every single day of their cycle.
Multiple women did that.
Yep. It's a big issue. So if you don't have an understanding, don't expect your doctors to complete that understanding for you. This is a major success that we receive feedback from cohort members all the time, is that they actually know what to ask for when they go to their providers now. It's a total game changer. So for example, you're trying to conceive for a year, you go in, what are they going to say? Okay, go to the clinic and they're going to recommend IVF, especially if you have labs, impartial lab picture, which we're going to get to in a moment. And they say like, oh, okay, you have low AMH, clinic, done, IVF. They're going to throw out a crazy stat like they did for Carrie. What was yours? 6% of getting 6%? Was it, Carrie?
Yeah, 6% chance that I would conceive naturally.
Yeah, you have only 6% chance of not getting pregnant naturally. Of course, that's freaking terrifying. And yeah, if we don't understand that our fertility doesn't equal our AMH, or it doesn't equal, that one hormone issue or multiple hormone issues, or that there are so many things that we can do, well, then you're going to believe that. And so self-advocation is so, so important. And progesterone is just a really good example of that. So Haley also had a really good, I'm going to try one thing in my audio and see if this works. Tell me if this works. If not, we're just going to keep on going. Let me put it
Hi,
there.
everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Haley Smith.
Heard it. Yep.
Of Olivia's April cohort. I was referred by a friend who also was successful in getting pregnant through Olivia's cohort and plan. I first did the Dutch test in March. I had longer cycles, so I did the more extensive Dutch test, and Olivia and I sat together and she explained everything that was going on with my test. I truly felt empowered by how much knowledge she gave me about my own body and things that I did not understand prior. Even when having my first child, I did not understand what was exactly going on with my body. And she gave me a game plan and goals that were very attainable, not things that seemed overwhelming or that I had to change all at once, just things to work on, but also the knowledge to understand why we were working on it and what to do. Then I became a part of the cohort, and I felt like I received knowledge and new knowledge every single week between the information that Olivia and her coworkers gave to me, and between being able to see what others are going through, change your plan accordingly. If you needed to change something up, you could see what others were going through and really relate to everyone in the group. I felt that I saw changes in my body even 2 weeks after starting our game plan. I could see my symptoms were getting better. I saw changes in my cycles. And now I can successfully say that only after 6 weeks of changing my game plan and altering my diet and adding supplements, adding lifestyle changes, that I have gotten pregnant naturally. After knowing that it was going to be a hard, long road, we did this in 6 weeks. So I can thankfully and happily say that I'm truly thankful for everything that Olivia and her team did, and that their knowledge and their empowerment of other women works so well. And I hope for success for everyone who joins Olivia's cohort. I've even referred and given Olivia's information to several other people that I know who have been struggling. So I cannot say thank you.
I'll cut her off there, but
Enough for all that y'all.
There we go. So hold on, let me go back to my speaker. So Haley, after already having, she already has a child, really just still we call advanced trying to conceivers is what we try to kind of talk to, is women who have been through it all, whether you've had a child already or whether you have just feel like you have been on this journey so long, like what else could you know? What else could you learn? Haley, this was just a quote from her when she got started on cohort. These were her root cause quiz results. We looked at thyroid, nervous system overdrive, estrogen dominance, high testosterone, and yeah. So just really powerful words from Haley when we understand the understanding. So understanding hormone, fertility, just information in general, understanding what to ask for. This is not underestimating the hours of research, tears, and pain that you have put in your own story. This is bringing it all together based on your root causes. That is not done anywhere else. That is not done in a standard approach. There's not there's not your root causes. It is just standard. All right. So just decide which, there's no right or wrong approach. It's just really what you want. And why you're here is probably showing us, what approach that you would ideally want. Okay, the next is missing and misinterpreted labs. Labs are huge. We need to do a whole webinar to this in and of itself. This is an entire section in the cohort. You guys know I post a lot about this on Instagram. Usually it's both of these. I don't think I've ever seen a picture where somebody's come in with having both, all labs that they need for your particular needs. Because again, how would you? No one's looking at your root causes, so they don't know what labs to order. And someone who has been shown how to interpret them correctly. So classic case of, you believing that all your labs are normal. We've never seen a case where these two things, you have all the labs you need to actually be able to say that, and two, they've actually been interpreted correctly. And I know, Kaylee, we just had a recent example of this, like a very powerful, even when we were talking to this woman, we were like, what in the world? Like, are you serious? So tell us a little bit about this one that just came up.
Yeah, so this particular client, she's been trying to conceive for 3 years. She's had 4 unsuccessful IUIs, 4 egg retrievals with no viability prior to working with us. We finally helped her advocate to get a proper lab workup based on some of her root causes, and this is what came back. So we have iron is low, her ferritin is low. She has an above optimal HbA1c, meaning she has glycemic issues. TSH is suboptimal. She's got inflammation markers. So I don't even know how many of those. 7 things that I just said here, all suboptimal. And guys, none of these flagged as being too high or too low on her labs. But we know when we're looking at labs from an optimal analysis, from a functional medicine lens, that these are all interfering with her ability to get viable embryos and will affect her chances of successful implantation when she moves on to that transfer phase. So these are huge, huge discoveries that are going to change the trajectory of her fertility journey here. And these were all through this journey so far had never been looked at. So she's been on this road for 3 years. This is a huge disservice to this client. And now she feels empowered, like, oh, I actually have some understanding of why things aren't working. It's not just me. It's not just bad eggs, which is what she's told over and over again. All of these factors are contributing to why she's where she is now, but we actually are able to target these and change them so that her story will change going forward.
It's just equally sad, and it makes us so angry, honestly, for couples going through this when we experience this, but then it gives us so much hope also in the same breath of just understanding that information now, that new information that we have that we should have had from the beginning, but we have it now and we know what to do going forward. So labs is so, it's just, I cannot stress enough the importance of being open. And I think this is where I want to just end with this one, is like being open to the possibility that you have been led to believe something that is not true, that all your labs are normal, or that you don't need better labs. Because that belief that we're told, and many of us here are told this by standard approach of like, yeah, well, we did all the labs, they're normal, and there's nothing to do about it. So if you're willing to question that narrative, if you're willing to say, okay, well, that's one opinion, that opens a door to really just exactly what we're talking about here. Okay. So it really is it really is on us as consumers of our own healthcare, of our own fertility needs and services that we are going and paying and spending our time and energy with providers to think, okay, is that actually the full picture? And another big part of this is, yes, Melissa, I love it. I mean, I think so many of us relate to this because it really does take that little difference of thinking to actually kind of open up that door. All right. So just so important and so powerful that you all are doing that. And another part of this lab picture is sperm. All right. So minimizing sperm health. Again, I don't know how many times we've seen this. It's so sad. And it just, frankly, pisses us off every time whenever the woman goes through all of this, right? You are going through all of the tests, all of the things, told all your eggs are bad all the time. And sperm health has been a factor all along. It's either been not even assessed or it's been brushed off as normal. Guys, a normal sperm analysis would have been considered infertile 50 years ago. Just think about that. So it has to be an equal part of our efforts, of our investigation. 30% of unknown or unexplained infertility cases involve male factor. 30% are male factor. That means over 60% of the time there is male factor involvement in fertility struggles. All right. Normal sperm analysis means nothing. A morphology, man, I honestly I don't know, Carrie, if this is just something that we're being cynical about, but remember when they just stopped testing morphology?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it started like a little bit last year. So if you're getting sperm analysis done and it's not on there, one, ask if it's going to be on there maybe beforehand, now that you know that. And two, if it's not on there, ask them like, where was that? We've had clients go back and get the morphology from them. It just wasn't released to them. So
it's another thing about labs. Get all your labs. I don't care if a clinic calls you and says, oh, everything's normal, you're good. Say, okay, great. Could I please have a copy of those? All right. You need to have those. Because it may be normal to them, but when we're looking at it and we go through it, we're finding so many things that have been overlooked. And just a couple things about sperm health. I mean, a man's genetics are responsible for building the fetal side of the placenta. Okay, that's huge. That means that this is important in not only getting pregnant, staying pregnant, but also maternal outcomes at birth. We're talking about preeclampsia, we're talking about morning sickness, right? We're talking about, again, the health of the entire pregnancy. Sperm health can impact embryo quality. So like Kaylee said, no, it's not all like, oh, ladies, all your eggs are bad. No, in fact, it is also sperm health is part of this equation. DNA damage in sperm can lower fertilization rates and increase risk of miscarriage. So if you're having recurrent miscarriage, if you're having issues actually staying pregnant, you're like, okay, I get pregnant, I can't stay pregnant. We have to look at DNA sperm fragmentation, bring in the male factor part, and it's a non-negotiable. Also, this is Carrie. Remember that we just saw this Instagram, this IVF doctor talking about this on Instagram, and we were just we did not take it well on our side. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, it was, a woman who, I mean, honestly, the statistics, so it was a couple going through IVF and very, very low yields, as well as all of the embryos were genetically tested and came back abnormal. And it was similar to Kaylee's client, which is why we were all just like talking about this in general at the time. Um, and yeah, I mean, the way he posts is like, what do you think it is? And then days later, or in this case, a week later, he posts the answer of like what the problem actually was that they found. And in this case,
sorry to interrupt, Carrie. He posted it as like this mystery, right? Like this mysterious case of this IVF and what is going
why
on.
would the embryos be abnormal?
And what was his miraculous answer to that?
Yeah, that it was the sperm health was abnormal.
But
yeah.
And sorry, I keep going, Kara. I'm getting.
Oh no, you go.
But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't just sperm health. It was that this guy that he was talking about as the sperm contributor was the most unhealthy, like just super ridiculous, like red flags all over the place about his health.
Like a big time smoker, for example, like cigarette smoker, very overweight. Did you see his response to your comment, Olivia?
No, I didn't. I did comment. What did he say?
It's like, some men just refuse to change.
Oh, I can't even. I cannot even. Okay, so my response was, why did they even do IVF in the first place? I do not think that if a man is not able to quit smoking, quit drinking, and get like whatever, at least rein it in, make changes along with all the changes that his partner is going through. I don't think they should, whatever. Okay, I'm getting off topic here, but sperm health is huge, guys. And this is just something that really does really clearly get to us, because the women go through so much. So we cannot just overlook this and say like, oh, we'll just do IVF. That's the problem I have with this post. Was you say, this is what IVF clinics do. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter all these things are here. It doesn't matter that all these factors are present that literally change the DNA of our embryo, of our egg, and our sperm that are going to create life. It doesn't matter. We'll just override that. We'll do ICSI. We'll pick the right sperm. It does matter. Going back to number one foundation, eating enough. You can't bake a cake if you don't have the ingredients. Same here. All right, I'm going to keep moving on. What all does it mean? Jumping to medicated cycles or IVF, right? This is exactly what I was saying. We cannot just jump to those things if we are not understanding these things first. Every single one of these areas is either completely overlooked or not well understood by mainstream medicine. I will be the first to tell you, if you haven't heard already, that doctors get under 2 hours of nutrition education in their entire medical residency, education, everything. Okay. So you decide what you want. We cannot rely on them for getting care that we want if they don't even know how to provide it. All right. And I know this makes people mad sometimes. And I get this pushback a lot, is like, well, insurance and, and I understand the insurance model, but you have the choice to choose differently. I can't tell you the last time I even used insurance, because it's not the type of care I want. It is not the type of care that I want or need now, actually, because we do things differently. Once these foundations are clarified, which is what we do at any program we work with, we clarify what foundations, what root causes, what stressors are in your story. How do we address those? Then, only then can we go into the larger picture and look at things that you're likely chasing, right? Whether that's a diagnosis, PCOS, endometriosis, endometriitis, uterine inflammation, again, autoimmunity, all these things. All these things are downstream from foundations. So I know that even the word foundation, some people are like, oh, okay, well, I mean, I've done all that. I hope now you kind of think of that a little bit differently.
Well, I think foundations is different from basics.
True. Yep, absolutely. This isn't a fertility 101 we're talking here, right? Like this isn't, oh yeah, know when you ovulate and use ovulation strips. Like no, this is
Eat sweet potatoes for progesterone.
right. Oh my gosh. Yes, you guys here, you know what we're talking about. You've heard all the things, which is why we're here. So I do just want to, you know, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly here, but we're talking about other cohort members' experiences here, and I just can't share enough of just the change, the powerful changes that our cohort members make with us over the 8 weeks is just so encouraging, so honestly life-changing. Here, feeling, you know, I know what I'm doing to set my body up for success, as opposed to feel like I need to try everything. Acknowledging that this journey is filled with heartbreak, disappointment, stress, and prioritizing stillness, gentleness, being gentle with ourselves, speaking kindly to ourselves, loosening the grip on all things that we cannot control. This is foundational. If we are stressing every second of the day, every day of that 2-week wait, every moment that we lead up to taking that pregnancy test and then end in it being a negative, this is keeping us in what we call no place for a baby mode in our programs, and we'll learn about that. So many things here. I can't even get to them all, but you're not lost on the journey. There are clear and simple ways you can improve fertility that actually work and can easily track improvements. I feel closer to that BFP. So very, very important. Providing practical ways to go forward. This is one more little cohort summary, cohort story. Hold on, let me get you on the right speaker here.
Just finished the April cohort. I had arrived there having previously done a strategy session with Olivia, and I went to go book another one, and she suggested that I do the cohort because you get a strategy session with it. I actually get 2 strategy sessions with it, plus much more. So I joined. I had known that something was going on with my body. I had a pregnancy termination about two years ago, and I've been struggling for the last year to conceive. I knew my body just didn't feel the same, but I didn't really know exactly what was going on with it. Once I arrived at the cohort, there's a chat going on. Anyone can ask questions. I felt a little bit of information overload because I saw everyone asking questions about specific labs, and I'm like, I just kind of know my body doesn't feel right. And I felt a little small at first and a little behind. And then I quickly realized that I was in the exact right place to get where I needed to go. Every week there's a call. It's recorded, so if you can't make it, that's great. You can follow up on it. You can
get
your questions answered on the call, though. There's modules every week, so there's reading material to learn. You kind of go at your own pace. And then there's the chat where all 3 practitioners are constantly helping you and answering questions, and you get to kind of have a view in on other people and what they're going through, and just perusing through their questions and answers definitely helps you get an understanding of the learning material. I have learned a lot. I have improved a lot. I went from I didn't even realize they were food sensitivities. I just thought they were intolerances. But yeah, I went from never being able to eat high fiber foods to being able to eat high fiber all the time and enjoying it. I went from feeling like I needed to have a really restricted carnivore-based diet to having a diet that is a lot more broad and diverse, but also somehow not any more difficult than cooking a piece of meat. The food journal that I use is incredibly helpful. And yeah, I definitely feel like I've made a lot of progress. I've seen insane improvements in my cycle, my PMS, and I've learned how to effectively track my cycle and to determine if I'm ovulating or not. I would highly recommend the cohort to anyone who is thinking about doing a strategy session or has done a strategy session in the past and feels like they need a little bit more help. I am so glad that I did it. The information that I've gotten, I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. And the changes that were suggested to me to make were incredibly easy to implement. So yeah, thanks for letting me share my story.
She's so sweet.
Yeah, love that. So, and these are just, you know, women who want to share their story with you, right? There's no prompting from us. We just say, okay, if you want to share words, go for it. And It's just, I love the support here. And as she mentioned, it is really a really powerful community. So this is just understanding what approach you want and knowing that there are ways to do that. And that is what we do in our cohort. Again, we're running short on time, so I'm not going to go through all these. Oh, this one I do love. What's one thing you've learned or done so far that you're proud of? Confirmed ovulation without having to pee on a stick. It's so good. So good. Stop peeing on sticks. Less bloating around my period, shorter cycle, less cramping. I mean, it's just mindset that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with your body. There's always a root cause that can be discovered and nurtured back to wellness. I mean, you name it. So, Carrie, you had this one thing, someone thank you for making you feel heard. For years, I felt crazy for feeling like something was wrong. And today you validated my feelings. It took 5 to 10 minutes to reflect. And I teared up because I was so refreshing to finally be able to think I may be able to get somewhere. Amazing. So it's more about a positive test. It is about really having you feel back in control of your journey. And that ultimately, it does have a very real impact on your hormones, your health from a cellular level, and how your body is going to foster fertility. So wrapping it up here, we are opening the cohort VIP list, and you can see more information about the VIP list on our website. That is all, again, on yourfertilityyourfuture.com. Kind of here's like a little screen share of it. This little phone view is the app, all the modules you get, the information you get right there. But the exciting thing about being on this webinar and listening to us over this last hour is that you have an opportunity to get a really cool offer right now in the next 24 hours. And that is to register for the VIP list. Number one, that secures your spot in the cohort. First and foremost, because they do fill up. It is the only spot that you are also able to get it at a discount. All right. There's no other discount that that can be offered or available. We don't offer discounts down the road. We don't do last minute specials. This is the only place where you can save on enrollment before it begins in the second week of July. So this is a really cool opportunity. And when you sign on the next 24 hours, you actually get a free bonus program, which we've never offered before. And that is our fertility repletion method. All right. So fertility repletion method will be a program that you can start right away and get working on these 5 areas that we've talked about. Repletion, number 1, fertility repletion method. This is a method that we expand upon in our cohorts, but you will have the ability to get started on this today, understanding how to replete your body, the deficiencies that life inevitably causes, and really be set up for success to hit the ground running, taking that to the next level in the cohorts. The VIP list is also the place to be to get started on understanding what labs you might want to bring into the picture, understanding how to get started on FAM, getting that natural cycles discount code. So lots and lots of things there. Can you guys see the code here in the chat about that? Kaylee just put it up here. Okay, let me know if people can't see that, but that is the code there to use. And that will get you into the VIP secure spot. And when you sign up in the next 24 hours, you get that free fertility repletion method. Now, I'll tell you, just to be honest about this fertility repletion method, I am putting finishing touches on it right now. So you're not going to get it immediately. All right. So when you get the VIP list, when you get in there, you're not going to just see that you have access to it, because I don't feel my best about finishing it right now for you guys. I want to make it better. And I'm going to put the finishing touches on it here. And in fact, our entire team is putting finishing touches on it here. When you're in that VIP list, we will individually get that to you and send that to you when you secure that spot in the next 24 hours. So we don't like to put stuff out there that we are not 100% proud and sure of. You guys deserve the best. So
we can't help but just make things better and better. So
it's just,
you're a little bit of perfectionist too. That's why you're here.
We understand.
Like attracts like.
So true. It is so true. And so that it really wraps up our presentation today. We do have time, a little bit of time, if anybody wants to hang on for a couple of your Q&As that you submitted. So we can go through these real quick. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But let's go over those. So the first one is, I would like to know more about the process / what impacts fertilization and implantation. And this is from Mariko. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Carrie, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that honestly, everything that we just talked about, it kind of really addresses that question. So, starting upstream with making sure that you have the proper nutrients for follicle development, for egg quality, for sperm health, will pay dividends down the line to helping fertilization and implantation.
And this comes back to that hormone IQ, which we do fully dive deep into in the cohort. You will understand the process. In fact, we have the whole process outlined there in the cohort modules about the egg traveling down and implanting and fertilization, the timing of that. But all of that nuance, all of that, I would say, like, beautiful detail is impacted by the system. Right. So the system, the tag access, eating enough, absorbing enough, all those things, and understanding what your hormones are doing. So it's not just one thing to say, like, oh, do this for fertilization, like do this for successful implantation. That's just not how it works. It's a systems approach. Everything in your system, whether
be personalized.
Yes, absolutely. And this is where understanding where to streamline your energy, what to focus on and what not to is so powerful. Kaylee, anything to add to that, or we want to go to the second one?
No, I think that's good. And I think the second one, I'll just jump right into it. So the second one is IVF failures, no embryo developing, not mature eggs, no implantation. And it really, we're going to start to sound a little bit like a broken record, but it's a lot of things we've talked about. So number one, has her partner had a semen analysis? What does it look like? Has that been addressed? Number two, what does her diet look like? Does she need to replete? Is she absorbing nutrients that we need for that proper egg growth? Does she have other factors getting in the way of implantation? Does she have thyroid issues? Does she have gut issues? Does she have low antioxidant status? So it's a lot of similar things that we think about for everyone, but the path to success is always a little bit different depending on someone's unique story. So I think that's another really helpful one to think about here.
And for a case like that, I was just gonna say, like, this is where marrying functional support with conventional support and having us help you guide that, like what you need and what you don't need for them, could be very helpful. It could be a case where she does need maybe some estrogen support, maybe some progesterone support. So we're really good at, trying to also help you navigate that conventional stuff too.
And this is where the cohort, the first 4 weeks is really understanding, clarifying your foundations. And then the last 4, you go in with your one-on-one provider and really help to target in on your specific needs. So that's what we will do here for Celine. Great question. And then Trisha, your point of view about seed cycling. I think we're all in agreement here across the board. There's the research on seed cycling is really more so just eating more. Like, it doesn't actually, you don't have to get stressed out about eating specific seeds in the follicular versus luteal. Just eat more seeds in general. More healthy fats, more vitamin E is going to help hormone production in general, which is huge for our clientele because, again, most come in with depletions. Anything else there?
And seeds are great, but don't forget about cholesterol and saturated fats. Monounsaturated fats, it's like shouted from the rooftops. It's the only healthy fat out there. Not true when we're thinking about fertility. So skin on poultry, fattier cuts of high quality red meat, grass-fed, grass-finished meat. Amazing, amazing for your fertility. Egg yolks, all the cholesterol in egg yolks. So don't be scared of other fats that aren't cold water fatty fish, omega-3 fatty acids, monounsaturated fats. Those are great too, but we also need those saturated fats that have been demonized in the past.
Great call out. Very important. Samina said, I'd like to find new ways of boosting my chances to get pregnant naturally. Well, right here, I hope you took so much out of this, and I would love to have you join us in the cohort because you're in the perfect spot for that. There's again, our foundational approach, clarify, rebuild, unlock, is exactly how we do this and individualize it for your specific needs. Krista, cycle length, including any reasons a flow week would be longer than 10 days. So a heavy or longer flow. Carrie, you want to go on that one?
Yeah, I mean, anything more than 10 days, you should definitely talk to your doctor about. It can happen for a variety of reasons. It can happen if you get sick, it can happen if there's a disruption to your immune system. It can happen if you're under a significant period of stress. So without knowing like what your hormone pattern specifically is, just going based on that, I would say chat with your OB and see if they have any insight into what could be going on there. There are ways of like kind of resetting with a little bit of progesterone. But yeah, I mean, ideally 5 to 7 days is good. A little bit shorter than that is also fine. That's also something that's really individual and that we look at when we're considering someone's whole hormone picture and all of their symptoms, an appropriate cycle length that kind of fits with what they were going through.
And I see some questions popped up, which I'll get to in just one moment. I'm going to do this one last one on the Q&A that was submitted by Alyssa. Love to cover hormones, periods, supplements, sperm health. Cohort is that's where we do that, right? So yes, we could cover this in a webinar. Yes, I mean, we cover a ton of this in Instagram, but that's where the book comes into play, right? So understanding what your period should look like, what what is an ideal cycle for fertility, knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect and that everybody has individuality, like we learned about Jessica, and even that longer cycle. And I know, Carrie, you're thinking about our one, Samantha, PCOS, pregnant, ovulated on day 74, pregnant. I mean, we helped her to understand how to actually figure that out and capture that trying to conceive cycle, get pregnant. Sperm health, absolutely. We have our male fertility specialist as well. You can schedule strategy sessions with him just for men, but it's covered in sperm health. And so Teresa and Alyssa, kind of a similar question here. Short flow. Yes. Okay. Short and light cycles around 3 days. Okay. So this is very, very common in our ladies. So let me stop sharing my screen here for a moment. This is, am I sharing my screen or not? Oh, okay, cool.
No, it's just you.
This is often coming back to our very first talking point today. Yes, Alyssa, likely not eating enough or absorbing it. Have to start there. We see change in extending an actual period. So the period length when you're actually bleeding with that change alone. Ideally, I don't want to see anything under 3 days. And so that is number one place we go to. All right. If we also pair this with testing, I would love to see a day 3 FSH, estradiol, and LH. I would love to see a Dutch test. Again, people could kind of decide when the right time to bring that in is or not. We talk all about this in the VIP list, but likely you have some lower estrogen than is ideal. Now, again, I cannot say what's going on. I know nothing about your cycles. I'm not working with you right now, but we see this in a low estrogen pattern. Low estrogen is made from cholesterol. It's made from fat. You got to be absorbing it. You got to be eating it. Spotting afterwards. This can oftentimes improve even just when boosting up estrogen, whether through first nutrition, absorption, potentially some herbals. We use lots of different supplements for this as well. And we often see a decrease in that spotting because we have a stronger uterine lining. We have that uterine lining that's been built up better and now getting that healthier, more productive period where we're sloughing off that uterine lining and not having that spotting. Now, spotting, brown spotting, can also maybe be a red flag for some other things happening. All right. So depending on what this looks like, again, the duration, when it's happening in your cycle, we always are going to take that into account and look at kind of some of those larger downstream things that we mentioned in the webinar. But always start with foundational, eating enough, absorbing it. What else?
And cohort is like honestly great for this. I had one of my clients had shorter cycles after doing the cohort. Now she's already started to now have a bleed on day 3. She was a 2-day scant kind of bleeder, and so now she's getting up to almost 3 full days, which it just in 8 weeks. Like we just ended our cohort 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I mean it can happen pretty fast is what I'm trying to say.
And this is an area I love that you're both asking this, because it's very, very important observation. A lot of women, when they go to their doctor and ask about this, they're told, oh, well, aren't you lucky? I wish, a lot of my clients would love to have short periods.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And I'm glad that you have eyes on this already. So that's really great. Amazing.